project related all resources are present in this file, SRC. Project related everything. That means whatever a project needs, all files that are required for project are present in this SRC folder. Observe, in this SRC, again so many are present. When I open this SRC folder, you can see in SRC again some files are present. In SRC again some files are present. Files and folders are present. These are very important. Why I am explaining this? Because in interviews they ask. What is the purpose of this file? What is the purpose of this folder? So you need to explain why that file is there. What is the purpose? So that's the reason you need to understand file structure. Right? Now let's see here. In SRC, there is another folder called what? App. What is the purpose of this folder? In SRC, there is which folder? App. SRC app folder, it comprises of application, dynamic resources like so many are there, like we call components, like services, like modules, like pipes. So all these are present in app. What are components, what are services, what are modules and pipes? These you are going to learn. We will see. So if anybody asks what you learned in Angular, actually you have to tell these terms. That means we should say in Angular, I learned components, services, factories, modules, pipes, filters and all. What are all the concepts of Angular framework? So those all are kept in which location? App. That means you have to design a component. That component must be kept in app. You need to design a service. Service need to be kept in app. App is the location where we keep all dynamic resources related to application. What are components, services we are going to learn? One by one we are going to learn about them. Those are present here. Another folder is there, SRC assets. It comprises of static resources. Static resources means you know already. Static resources means like we have images, like documents. Documents means docx, like PDF documents, like multimedia files. Multimedia means audio, video files. So that means audio and video files. All these are present in assets. So in Angular, where to keep dynamic content? In Angular, dynamic content is kept in which folder? App. And where to keep static resources, images, documents and all, we have to keep in assets. So these two folders you need to know perfectly, right? App and assets. Okay. Now I hope you people know favicon.ico. You learned in HTML. What is it? Favorite icon. Every website have a favorite icon, na? Actually, this is called favicon. This is title bar, na? That is title. And that icon is called favicon. That means every website have a fav icon. That means it defines the shortcut icon displayed in browser title bar. Actually, Angular icon will be there. If you want, you can keep your own icons. Usually they have the extension called .ico. That is actually fav icon. So in the project, you can see there is a fav icon. Next, there is another page, index.html. You know it, am I right? What it is? Index.html. What it is? It is the startup page. Index.html is the startup page. That means our application starts with which page? Index. So what you want to show when anybody requests our application? First screen that is decided here. Index.html is the startup screen. That means we need to tell what to display when page is requested. Our website is requested. Every application will have index.html. Okay. Now there is another file, main.ts. Now tell me, in computer programming, what is the meaning of main? What is the meaning of main in computer programming? I need technical answer. It is called, main is called entry point. In computer programming, main is considered as entry point. Suppose you written a program and main is not there, then it will show an error, entry point missing. If entry point missing error comes, what does that means? That means the main method is not there. So main indicates, that means it is the entry point for application. I will tell you the concept. Then what is index and what is main? We will see. Entry point for application means, so the execution of application starts from main. The execution of application starts from main. So it is called entry point. What it contains, I will tell you. We will see that. Because for that, you need to understand the architecture. We need to understand the basic architecture. So this is main.ts. Main is considered as entry point. Okay, let's see, one more file is here. What is it? Styles.css. It comprises of global styles. Global styles used in application. Global styles means if you give styles here, it will apply everywhere. In your application, everywhere you want some styles, then you can configure here. That means, suppose in a website, we have 10 pages. In every page, heading should look same. Then you don't need to write in every page. You can keep it in one location. That is what actually styles. Styles.css, it contains global styles. You mention styles here, they are applied everywhere. You can mention individual styles also. We will see that. But styles.css contains global styles. So these are all the files we are having. So we have SRC, and we have in SRC app and assets. And we have fav icon, index HTML, main, and style.css. CSS. These are the options. Now, some more are there. In assets, actually empty is there. It is an empty one. It is simple having some file. Here you see app contains some more files. That app contains some more files. But in this, important is only this file for us. All these are optional. All these are optional. Important is this file, app module.ts. I will explain that. What is that file? So you have one more file where it is present src. In src app, in app we have app.module.ts. App.module.ts. The architecture I will explain, then you will understand. But for that, first you need to know these files. What is actually this file is? It imports and exports all library that is required for application. Whatever library is required for application, everything is kept here. It is imported here. That means you designed some module, you designed some component, you designed some service. Application cannot use it. That means you created some file, but that file cannot be used. It can be used only when it is imported into which file? App module.ts. In Angular, anything you add, it should be registered here. In Angular, whatever you are going to add manually, that must be registered in a file called app module. If you created some class and you haven't registered that class in this file, then that class will not work. That means every component that you design in Angular, it must be registered in which file? App module.ts file. This is very, very important. That is only important that you need to know. Actually, this is a component. What is a component? I will tell you. We will discuss that component. These files are not mandatory. We will discuss what is a component. So see, now you understood the complete file system. I explained the file system of workspace. Am I right? And I explained the file system of project. In project, what files are present, and in workspace, what files are present. Okay. Now, after knowing about these files, you will see how to work with these files. I will show you a simple architecture behind this. So, Angular application flow. I will show you the Angular application flow, how it actually works, how the application works, right? Let's see. Let me explain it first. After that, I will give a proper diagram to you so that you can make a note about that. Okay. Actually, Angular application flow is nothing but see. I already told you in the beginning, by using Angular, we are going to build what kind of applications? We are going to build what kind of applications? Single page applications. What is the meaning of single page application? Only one page is present. Only one page is present? No. There will be several pages, but user will start with only one page and user will stay on only one page and everything comes onto that page. That means Angular application is a single page application and user starts with one page, stays on one page. And what is that page? Index.html. Index.html is the startup page. User requests index, stay on index, everything comes on to index. Actually, how it works is, I will tell you. Means two types of architectures are there. One architecture just explains what Angular contains actually. Another architecture explains how it works in the background. Majority, when you search for Angular architecture in general on internet, you will find only one diagram that everybody knows, that is general diagram. But flow you will not find everywhere. That you need to learn from any person who is already experienced in it. That means who knows the complete scenario, right? And unfortunately, there is no such architectural flow diagrams of Angular anywhere shown in internet, right? Even in official website also, they don't have that. That means they don't have a proper flow to explain for general learners. They have one small architecture, which is not enough. I will explain both architectures. We will see actually how Angular works. Generally, what happens is we usually have a repository. Repository is nothing but we usually have a library. Actually, library contains some values. Library contains some functions. So a library contains values and functions. These values and functions are actually called as, we call them as factories. We call them as a factory. A factory is a set of values and functions. A factory is a set of values and functions. That means, for example, in JavaScript, you learnt in JavaScript and TypeScript, we have seen array. Array is a factory. Array factory contains array methods like index of, last index of, pop, push, length. Am I right? String. String is a factory. String factory contains character at, char code at, index of, split, slice. Math is a factory which contains all mathematical functions. Date is a factory which contains all date functions. So a factory is a collection of functions and values. Is a collection of functions and values. Now, we don't use these factories directly. In our project, we don't use them directly. Why we don't use directly? Because actually factory follows a mechanism called single call. Factory follows a mechanism called single call. Single call means in order to call a function, you need to create an object. You create one object. Through that object, you call the function. After that, that object is destroyed. If I want to call the function again I need to create object. So every time in order to execute a function, we need to create an object. This mechanism is called single call. It is burden for application. Every time you need to create an object. That is not good. That is the reason what we do is we don't use factory directly. We inject these factories. We inject the factory into service. We inject the factory into service. That means we have services. Factories are injected into service. So what is a service? A service is a collection of factories. A set of factories are kept in a service. Factory is a set of values and functions, and service is a set of factories. Some set of factories, and these difference is service uses singleton mechanism. Factory follows single call. It follows a single call mechanism. Factory follows a single call mechanism, and service follows a singleton mechanism. I hope you learned in Java, .NET like technologies. What is singleton? Singleton pattern. You learned singleton patterns? If you learned any programming languages like C++, Java, .NET, you know singleton? Singleton means a class can have only one object. That means you need to design a class in such a way that only one object is created. Second time object cannot be created. Only first time object is created. And the same object will be used across any number of requests. This mechanism is called as what? Singleton. So factories use single call and service use singleton. We better prefer singleton. Singleton means only once you inject and you can access any number of times. That is important. That is service. So what happens here? So we have factory and we have a service. Generally what we do is, by using these services, we inject these services, and what we do is, we design, after injecting these services, we design components. We design components. We create components. That means by injecting the services, we create components. Actually, component contains lot of things. It contains HTML, it contains CSS, and it contains logic. Actually, better I say, component contains markup, presentation, component contains styles, and component contains logic. These all three are present in a component. A component contains all these three. Presentation is designed by using what? Presentation is designed by using HTML. Styles are designed by using. Logic is by using TypeScript. Here Angular, we don't use JavaScript. We use TypeScript. And in TypeScript, every function we don't write. Some functions are already written. We inject them and use them. From where we inject them? From service. From service, we inject them. That means actually, there can be lot of services. Understood? That means in a project, usually we have lot of services. We can have lot of services. Which service we want, that service we can inject and we can use. There can be lot of services. Out of all these services, which service is required, that service we can use. That means it's not necessary that you have to use all the services. For example, so out of this, you need only one service. Then what you can do, you can use only that service and put that in your component. Understood? You can use only that in your component. That means we build components. And these components, actually, this component, whatever the component you designed, this component is actually displayed in our startup page. And that startup page is index.html. Now in index.html, it contains this component. Understood? It contains this component. That means we have a component here. It contains a component. It can have lot of components. That means it usually have lot of components. That means not only one component. Like that, so many components can be there. So many components can be there. So index page, we don't directly design. Understood? Index page is not directly designed. The design for index page is coming from components. The functionality, design, styles, everything is coming from where? Component. For example, I will show you here. This is some Instagram. This is a component based page. This is a component based page. Actually, the Instagram that you are watching, this page is index.html. In this index.html, actually, this is one component. This component name is login component. Understood? And this is another component. What is that component? So this is sign up, or we call register. Register component. Sign up register component. Now, this is another component. Actually, there the banner is changing. Slides are changing. You know, this component is called carousel. You know the carousel component. People call it as carousel. Sliding banners, fading banners. These are called as what? Carousel. That means you have an index page with a set of components. These days, all single page applications are majority in web. That means we don't have traditional web pages. We all are using single page applications. Netflix is single page, Amazon is single page, Instagram is single page, Facebook is single page, Twitter is single page. They are all component based. For example, if you visit any site, suppose you see Netflix. In Netflix, at the top, you can see this is header component. This is main component. This is register component. You may ask, what is advantage of component base? Simple. Components allow reusability, extensibility, reusability. For example, I want this same registration form somewhere bottom again. Generally, what you will do in your HTML? In your HTML page, you want a screen 2 times at 2 different places, same screen. What you will do? You will copy and paste. That is not correct. Why? Because you know the principle. In real-time projects, we have to follow a principle. What is the principle we have to follow in real-time projects? Dry. Don't repeat yourself. This is not general word, official project term. In official project documentation, they mention this, that you have to follow the principle dry. Don't repeat yourself. That means I should never see any set of code rewritten again. Then why you are learning OOP concepts? Reusability. Then where is reusability? You are writing again. So you should never write again. Then how to design like that? We have components. Observe carefully. I scroll down. That register form is again here at the bottom. That means will they copy and paste it? No. This is a component. They inject that component wherever they want. They can separately design and inject where they want. This is how single page applications are designed. Everything is component based. So whenever I requested this page, I hope you can tell this now. This is the current screen you are watching now in Angular project. Can you tell me from which page this screen is coming? This screen is coming from which location? Index.html. Now observe carefully, in index.html, so much design is there. You see, so much design is there. No? Let's see, go to index.html, projects, src, index.html. Let's see in the body, where is that code? Only one line is there. In index.html body, only one line is there. This one line is showing lot of content. Now you understood? Now tell me from where all this content may be coming. Component. Component. You see, they have a component called app root. They have a component called app root. Right? In that component, they designed everything. Just that component they plugged into index. That component they pushed in that index page. Now the question is, where is this root component? Actually, this app root component is present. It's logic. Where that logic is present, it is present in app folder. In app folder, you can observe there is a file called app.component. There is a file you can see, app.component.ts. Every component contains three things. What are those? Logic, presentation, styles. Logic is present in TS file. Presentation is present in HTML. Styles are present in component.cs. So every component have three files. Now, if that component is completely finished in design and they need to test it also, then there will be a test file, app.component.spec.ts. That is testing file. That means actually in your project, there must be these files. And this design is coming from those files. Understood? The design is coming from those files. Now, if I have to make change on the index screen, what I am viewing, where to change? Tell me. Actually, this component name is which? What is the name of the component? App component. But app component is accessed by using which term? App root. Actually, this is called, every component have a selector. Understood? Every component have a selector. By using this selector name, we access it and use it. We access and use it. That is the selector, right? That means now component name is app component, but its selector name is what? App root. Let's observe this now. Let's go to app. In app, you go to app. You see what are the files available. App component CSS, app component HTML, app component spec, app component TS. And observe carefully, in app component TS, in TS, you see the selector name. What is the selector name? App root. This all you will learn. You will learn how to write your own component. I am explaining what is already there. We will learn how to create our own like this. Okay. Now here you see there is app root. Okay. And where is the design for this? The design is coming from HTML. Na? Let's go to HTML, delete all this HTML. Now here I will just keep a heading like Angular shopping. Am I right? And I will save this. And in the background, it will compile. Already it is compiling. Na? It is compiling. I started ngserve. Ngserve means in the background it is running. Okay. Now run this and see here. Your page changes now. That means the presentation that we are watching in the first screen, it is coming from which page? Index. In that index page, directly the design is present? No. It is coming from a component. Which component it is? App. App component is the default component present in our project. If you want, you can delete it and you can put your own components, which we will see how to do that. But I am changing. Now tell me how to keep this in center. I want to change its font style. I want to put a background color. I want to keep it center. Then all the styles are defined in which file? Component.css. So what I will do now here, I will put this heading in a div. This div have a class container. You know CSS, ID selector, class selector, type selector, you can use them. Now let's go to CSS file. This is app component CSS file. In this, I will access the class container. Container display flex, justify content center, align items center, and I will give height as some 500 pixel. This keeps the content exactly center on page. These are CSS options. And what I will do is for heading. Which heading we have? H1 or H2? H1. For heading 1, what is the effect? Heading 1? Yeah. Heading 1, I just given padding. Padding as 20 pixel. I given border as 1 pixel solid gray. I am giving some box shadow, 2 pixel, 3 pixel, some black. That is the shadow I am giving. Font family as Arial, something like this. I'm adding some effects. I'm giving border radius 20 pixel. Now you can see the effects will keep the appearance in this way. That means we are designing and we are applying some effects. Designing and applying some effects. This is how you need to design your pages. That means actually we are customizing the component which is already given. Now like this, we must able to add our own components. So this is the basic. Effects, other things you can do. Suppose I am giving background color, some yellow, that is the background color, and it will display in this way. Right? We can add all the effects and define them and configure them. So initially, this is very important to understand. The flow is important to understand. Got this flow, still it is not finished. A lot of things we need to know about the flow. Basic architecture you understood? That means we have functions and values. These functions and values are called factories. Factories are injected into service. Services are injected into component. Components are injected into index page. That means whenever you request the page, it will start with this page. Right? You can roughly make a note about this component, right? And I will upload this diagram, okay? Into Classroom, I will upload this diagram. You can go through it. Huh? You can make a note from there, okay? This is Angular architecture. Okay, this is Angular architecture. I will upload this diagram later, okay? You can see that and you can make a note about this. But this is not enough. This is just to make you understand how the flow is working. In this flow, some important things you need to know, right? This is Angular application architecture. This is. In this architecture, we have first thing to know is about factory. What is a factory? Factory is nothing but it is a set of values and functions. Actually, why we don't use factories directly in building an application? because it uses single call mechanism. Single call mechanism. What is single call mechanism? So an object, so in single call mechanism, an object is created every time when a function is required. That is what actually factory. So factory is a set of values and functions, and this set of values and functions are not directly used in project because they use single call mechanism. Then what we do, we use a service. What is a service? Service is a predefined business logic. It is a predefined business logic. And very important is, so it comprises of set of factories. It contains set of factories. And very important is, it uses singleton mechanism. What is singleton mechanism? So singleton creates an object for first request and uses the same across all other requests. That is what actually service is. Service is very big concept. You are going to learn them independently later, right? I am just giving a simple overview. Now, next point, what is it? Component. Because we will learn about component detailedly. Component, it comprises of presentation, styles, and logic. Actually, component is nothing but it is a template for design and functionality. So component actually uses services. It uses markup and all. So markup is using HTML, styles by using CSS, and logic with TypeScript. That is what actually we do for designing a component. Markup is using HTML, styles by using CSS, and logic with TypeScript. That is component. And this component actually is used in your index. Single page environment. Actually, index is the startup page in SPA. And index page uses components for presentation and functionality. So SPA is single page application is component based. We call it as component based. Generally, Angular is also called as component based. But it is not just only component. It has lot of other things. We will see that. Right? This is actually the basic architecture. So we have functions, we have values, we have to inject them into service injected into component, and you need to customize. Example, what to do? First, what you have to do, go to app folder. So in that, customize customize which one? You need to customize app.component.html. In app component HTML, I given this code. I will copy this code, right? I will upload this into Classroom, okay? So this is in app component HTML. After that, add styles. In which file? App component.css. App component.css, I added some styles like this. I will copy these styles, okay? Na? This all I will upload into Classroom. You can get it from there, okay? So in app component HTML, we added a small design and we are adding some functionality. You can use anything for your project. I will show you how to design various concepts, right? Now, one more point is there. Now, what we have to do is actually, after doing this, generally what happens is index.html uses app component by its selector name. Understood? What is the selector name? App root. That means how they do in the body section, they just call app root as a tag. Understood? App root. This is actually many times people ask like, is this a new concept? Components and all new concept? No, already components are there in your HTML, JavaScript, everywhere. It's not a new concept. Already components are there everywhere. Only the point is now we are working on that environment very extensively. That means more we are using components. Earlier also components are there, but we were not using much components. But still several people use components. In JavaScript, HTML, you have components. For example, I will show you. Suppose I will show you one simple HTML page. Temporarily, I will add one HTML page for you, demo.html. Observe carefully. In this page, I am giving departure. And the departure, I am giving input type is equal to date. Date. Now, I will open this here. When I run this, actually input type I given as date. And it has given this date picker. It have given this date picker. Very important is, so for this I written input type as what? Date. Actually this date is, it is a component. That is a component. You may think it like a element, right? Tag, but actually it is a component. Date is a component. That means you see actually you may be surprised like I just used input type date. Then how come a box came? How come an icon came? And how come that icon is working on click? Have you written any logic for that? Then how it is working? There might be some logic behind it. That means it is a component already. It is a component already. If you want to see how this date is designed, you can see. What you can do is right click, select inspect. Developer tools will come. In that inspect, what you can do is go to settings. Here in settings, you have to select shadow DOM. You can see there is a shadow DOM. Actually, if you don't select that shadow DOM, you can observe here in the body, input type date is only one. It looks like only one. But go to settings and select shadow DOM. shadow, dome and close, you can see input type date is designed with a lot of content. See? Understood? This is all the design behind it. This is all the design behind it. What do you think all these days it is a simple element? How an element can work like that? That means it is designed with a div, span, so much functionality also. Is it having only presentation? It is having functionality also. The functionality means when you click the icon, it pops up a window. In that it will ask select date. Observe, I click the button, it will pop up a window. I select a date, the date will be stored here. Automatically it is updated in this location. That means it is a component. Components are not new. Already we have this. Only the point is we don't much use them earlier. But now everywhere components. Creating such components with JavaScript, HTML, CSS is very risky, lengthy process. That is the reason these technologies became popular. Because without Angular, React also we built single page applications. You know Twitter. Twitter is world's first single page application. It is there before Angular and React were born. That means Angular and React are used for building single page applications, but single page applications are there before these technologies born. Then how they build single page applications using JavaScript and jQuery. And JavaScript, jQuery have a lot of issues. So complex, so much logic you need to put into this. To simplify that, these technologies came. And these technologies became popular because of component-based design. Here designing components and using components is very easy. So components is a new concept for web developer? No. Already they are in HTML and CSS. Date is a component. You have input type color, input type file, input type email, input type even text also component. Input type password also component. They are not elements. Because what password will do, have you observed recently? Password gives an I symbol beside it. You click on that I symbol, characters will be shown. Again click, they will be hidden. What is it? It's a component. These are all not general elements. These are all components. You are going to learn how to design your own component like that. How to create those components like that by using what? Angular. We are going to do this. So this is the basic flow. So what you have to do, go to app component HTML, delete whatever HTML is present and put some your own content. Go to CSS and make some changes. Logic I will tell you later. Suppose you want a button, on the button click, you want some functionality, how to handle all such logics you will see later. How to create our own components I will tell you. There we will see our own logic, how to handle. But now you need to understand how this entire flow works. Remember, this is high-level architecture. This is high-level architecture. In interviews, they will not ask this because everybody knows this. Only 3 steps. Factories, services, components. Everybody knows this. This is in interviews at experience level, they will ask the flow. They will ask that how Angular application compiles, how it executes. Tell me the flow, the basic flow. I will tell you that now. Let's see the basic flow of Angular now. Means technical flow, how it actually works. So how it is actually going to work, to understand that, first thing you should know, you are requesting in the browser, you are requesting http:// what is it? local host. What you are requesting? 4200. When you are requesting this, what happens is actually means when you first request this in a browser, you are doing it. That means in a browser, this is the browser, and in the browser, you are requesting. In the browser, you are requesting. Now, when you request this in browser, what happens? First step means what happens in the background. What happens is when you request this in browser, first thing is here, we will have a file. Actually, what is that file? Let me keep this here. Okay. Now, what happens first thing is in your project, there is a file. There is a file called app.module.ts. This file will load. First, this file will load app.module.ts. This file will load. This file is going to load. But observe carefully here. Actually, before loading this file, who is the entry point? No. Entry point. Entry point is which file? main.ts. This main.ts will first execute. What this main.ts will do is, it will look, is there a file by name app module? Understood? It will look, is there a file name app module? Shall we see, is it looking for that or not? Right? Let's see. Go to which file? Projects. In that src, in that, what is the file? Main. In the main file, observe, it is importing app module. Understood? It is importing app module. App module is which file? In app.module.ts. This is app module. Na? You see, this is the class. That means what is the main.ts is doing? Main.ts, first application starts with main. Main will import this app module. After importing that app module, what does that means? You see, it is importing the app module and it is doing some work called bootstrap module. It is doing the work bootstrap module. Bootstrapping is nothing but bootstrap is different, bootstrapping is different. Actually, bootstrapping is the process of converting from static to dynamic. This is called as bootstrapping. The process of converting static into dynamic. That is called bootstrapping. That means actually first what happens is, means lot of internal diagrams are there. Generally what happens, I will tell you. Generally we have library. This library is loaded into memory. This library is first loaded into memory. This library is loaded into memory. After library loaded into memory, this library is not active. Actually, this library is static. Understood? That is static. Then what we do is, generally, we compile this library. That means this library is compiled. Understood? This is compiled and what? Processed. After compiling and processing, this library is converted into dynamic. Once it is converted into dynamic, it starts working. The library will not start working until or unless it is converted into dynamic. To convert into dynamic, it have to undergo compiling and it should undergo processing. The process of converting a static library to dynamic, this is called bootstrapping. I hope you know, you turn on your computer and it is taking some time to load and get ready. What do you call this phase as? The phase from switch on to get ready. What do you call this phase as? Booting. Technical people will say booting, ordinary people will say loading. What you are loading? Nothing is loading. Actually, it is booting. Right? Ordinary people use the word loading. Right? But technical people will never say loading. Computer will not load. Where it will load? It will not load. Computers will boot. They will not load. Understood? Huh? My laptop loading. I am waiting. Right? These are all general terms, right? Your laptop is not loading and you don't need to wait. Right? It is booting. And booting is a process that verifies all the devices are connected correctly, that verifies all the system files are present correctly. Then it makes your system ready. Then you can start using. While booting, if any hardware is missing, like mouse is not connected, keyboard is not connected, RAM is not correct, then you will hear some hardware sounds like single beep, double beep. You know, those are all related to booting. That means while it is booting, it is verifying. Is hardware devices correctly connected? Those beep sounds also have some meaning. A single beep means everything perfect. Continuous beep means RAM failed. Understood? Hardware people understand all this by using this process. Right? Technically, the process of starting and making ready is called as what? Bootstrapping. Angular application bootstraps. Bootstraps, that is from static to dynamic. That means now where all the library is present? Actually, library is present in which location? App module. And what main.ts will do? Main.ts will bootstrap. That means it will bootstrap. It will bootstrap. Which one it will bootstrap? It is going to bootstrap app module. It is going to bootstrap app module. And very important, now what happens is, once the process is completed, that means all the library is loaded. Everything is ready. Next, what it have to do? Next, what it will do is, this app module, actually app.module.ts, this file is going to load. It is going to boot again, we say. It is going to boot. What it is going to boot? It is going to boot app component. It is going to boot app component. That means which component to start? There may be so many components. Which components to start? Currently, how many components we have in our project? Only one component. What is that component name? App component. You saw na? Right? In the project, how many components are currently present? One. And what app module will do is, it will boot the app component. Boot the app component means what? It will compile that component. It will check are there any errors. After that, it will process the component. After processing the component, what it will do? It is going to inject this component. It is going to inject this component into which location? Index.html. Observe carefully. Let's go to, this is main. Main is bootstrapping which module? App module. So app module is ready. All library is ready. Now let's go to app module and see. I will go to appmodule.ts. Here you can see it is having another bootstrap. It is having another bootstrap. Which component it is bootstrapping? App component. That means which component to start? You have to mention. If anybody asks, can we start with multiple components? See the code, you will tell. See the code, you can tell. Bootstrap is what type? Type. Square brace. Array na? It is an array type, na? Then array means, can we have multiple? Yes. All these are array types, na? Right? That means if anybody asks, can we start with several components? Of course, already Instagram is doing. In Instagram index page, only one component is there. No, header component, footer component, carousel component. That means in a page can start with multiple components. It's not necessary that it should start with only one. Right? Currently it is starting with all these components. Right? This is the flow, actually how it works. Now, when you search for architecture diagrams and all for official website in even Angular also, they will not tell you this. They will just tell you the architecture I showed you previously. Right? This is internal flow, internally how it works. That means, for example, you see the official Angular site. So this is Angular, this is official Angular site. And in this Angular, I defined some architecture. Angular architecture. So you have any Angular architecture? Angular architecture is there. They will give you the basic architecture and flow, how it works. These are all semantics and all. Architectural overview. It's not there, somewhere it will be there. Just Google Angular architecture, right? Guide is there. This is the basic architectural flow diagram. Yeah, this is the diagram usually they show. That is the diagram usually they show actually. So I will save this one or just close this. Yeah, you see this diagram. Now what it is happening, it is having some functions and values. These are injected into service. Service is injected into component. Component makes a template. This template is added into your page through a selector. I told you directive and all. Those all technical words you will see now. I just given you a brief overview. But this is not the architecture. Internally so much happens. That means generally this is only given in the official website about architecture. But the flow, how it works, you need to clearly understand. Right? In official website also, they will give you only this part. They will give you only this concept. That this is how your Angular works. But in interviews, they will ask detailing. What is the purpose of main? What is the purpose of app module? These are all basic things you need to understand. So here, the basic architecture. So this is application flow. In the application flow, only few steps I will give you. First, user requests, application from where? Browser. How he will request? Local host, what is this? 4200. First, what will happen? It invokes which file? Main.ts. What main.ts will do? Main.ts is going to do what? Main.ts imports which module? App module. And bootstraps which module? App module. So here the question is bootstrapping is the process of converting the static library into dynamic. That means it is compiling. Actually, it is first injecting. After injecting, it is compiling. After that, it is processing. All these things will happen. After this bootstraps, that means after the bootstrapping, what will happen next step? Now what will happen is app module, actually it is app.module.ts. App module TS imports all library required for project. After that, what it will do? So it is going to app.module.ts will bootstrap. What it will bootstrap? The component. Bootstrap the components that you want in which page? Index.html. This is important. It will import those components. It will bootstrap those components. And what happens is index.html uses the bootstrap components by using selectors. Understood? Selectors means like app login, like we have like app register. They will be like this. These are called selectors. By default, what we have? App root. Like this we will have. Now you just understood the flow, how Angular application works. Now you know where to make the change. But we have to learn how to create our own components now. Currently we are using existing components. So what we have to learn? How to create our own component and how to put this component in the index, right? To design the components, there are so many techniques. We will learn everything. And by using these components, we must able to design a page like Netflix. We must able to design a page like Instagram by learning these components. That we will do. We will take a target of any real-time website like Netflix or Instagram, and we will try to design that using components. That we will see in next session. Tomorrow we'll do? No, Monday, right? In Monday session, we will start working with our own components. What are components and how to deal with them? Okay? Monday will continue, right?